So in the last couple of videos, we saw basics of React Router. In first video, we saw some basic functionality and how to create routes in React Router. And in the second video, we also saw that how to do some advanced thing like nested routing or that sort of thing. In this video, we are going to dig somewhat more deeper into some of the properties which are available in, let's say, link component or something. So this link component, so right now what is the setup? The setup is a couple of routes we have set up, and then that we are trying to access using a few links. So it is something like this is a simple homepage route, and this is like user 1 and user 2. This is matching this particular route, where after user slash we can give some ID, and that ID is being captured in a particular component using use params. Okay, and that ID 1 or 2 that is being rendered here. Okay, but the main thing is that what is the actual link created. The link created is something like this and this. Okay, using link component already provided by React Router DOM. I think this duplication is not needed. Both of them can be at one place only. Yeah. So now we'll see that apart from 2, this link component has a couple of more things. Okay, one of the things is something called replace property. So here, apart from 2, you will see that there is something called replace property, and simply you have replace, then like HTML, simply having replace means it is like truthy. So in this particular case, it will be actually in JSX. Actually, when you have a property and don't provide any value, then this thing is as good as exactly equal to this thing true. Okay, if false, then you have to properly pass false, but if you don't provide anything, then this is exactly same as passing it as true. So basically, what does a replace property, which means that replace being set to true, what does that mean? So just remove this for now a bit, and let's see what is the normal behavior. The normal behavior is that when you are at some place, so let's say here I am here. Okay, then from here I go to user 1, and then I do a back, then I go back to home page. So how this back button is working, that you are on some particular page, and then you can think of that all the all the subsequent navigations which you are doing, they are being like sort of stacked on top of each other, and then when you do back, then it is that stack is being popped from the top, that sort of order. Okay, so like right now, let's say the top of the stack is home. I go to user 1, now top of stack is user 1. I go to user 2, top of stack is user 2. Now if I do one back, then I come back to user 1, because if user 2 you have removed from top of stack, then user 1, this is the previous route. Again you do one more back, then home. So this is how the general navigation works, right? Now let's try to do something like here, let's try to have replace. Okay, now what this is going to do is that when you navigate using this, then this will not add a new item on top of the stack, navigation stack, rather it will replace the item on the top of navigation stack. Let me show you by an example. So while navigating to /user/2, I am passing replace, which means that let's say I am home, and after home, if I go to user 1, that is fine. Now when I click on user 2, then what is going to happen, that this is not going to add additional navigation item on top of this URL. Rather it is going to replace this and put when I click here, so it replaced user 1, which means that before user 1, what was the stack? Before user 1, the only thing in the stack was home. On top of home, user 1 was /user/1 URL was there. On top of that, I am not putting user 2, rather I am replacing user 1, and then I am putting user 2 at that place. And why you can prove that? Now when I am at user 2, now I do one back, then you see that I directly go at home rather than user 1, which means that user 1 was removed and user 2 was pushed onto the stack. So this is like normal behavior. Now here also you could put replace, but the point is that if you do that, then whatever after home, if on home you are there and then you click on user 1, then if you replace home, then whatever was before home. So we are not taking in that example. So let's say from some other place, so let's say from user 2 you are coming to home, and then you are coming to user 1, Then if I do back, then rather than going home, it will go to user 2, like just it will replace home also. So in that sense, wherever you put replace, that sort of behavior will be applied. Okay, so that is replace property. Now one another property is that reload document. Okay, what is this property? This property says that rather than doing a like a single page style non-refresh like navigation, you do a reload navigation like a normal a tag. So let's say I don't want to use a tag, I want to use link tag, but still I want to get the behavior of like a tag, full refresh type of behavior. Then for that you do reload document. That is straightforward, right? So where I have put like user slash 2. So, okay, so if user slash 2 I click, then I should get like, let's say, full refresh. So you can see clearly that on home, on user 1 here I'm not getting full refresh, but as soon as I click on this link, then I'm getting a full refresh every time I click here. Okay, so this is the normal behavior with reload document if there is some case in which you need this behavior. Okay, apart from that, there is another final property which we'll discuss here, is called state. So what happens is that uh, from here, any link, so let's say from here I click, then I go to user 2. So let's say user 1 and I click here, then I go to user 2. Okay, then if I go to user 2, then what if I want to have some data that is being passed from here to here? So again, you can pass data using, like, you can say that this 2 is also sort of one data, right? Apart from that, we have already learned in normal HTML also, but here also we'll see that you can pass additional data like something like id is equal to 23 or something like this. Is also another way, right? But one another way in React Router, where you don't want to show that data, so let's say some sensitive piece of information or some, let's say, navigational data which is not relevant to the URL or something, that sort of data you want to pass, then you can pass it here. So you can pass it anything, you can pass a proper object also, but right now let's say I'll simply give you an example of passing anything. Let's say hello, this string you want to pass. So right now you can see that this state is equal to hello, this thing I have passed. So what will happen is that whenever I'm anywhere else and then I click on this thing, then when I landed on this page, then here I have something called state is equal to hello. But okay, right now obviously I cannot see it because I have not used how to extract that information. Okay, that information can be extracted using something called use location, and that you have to use wherever you are trying to do that, extract that piece of information. So this state thing, right? So this what is the component which is handling this route? This component is this user component is handling this route, right? So we have to go inside this user component, and here we have to use this hook called use location. Okay, and then I can properly use this use location. Firstly, let's print what is this location object which we are getting from this use location. Okay, so use location, and let's simply print this. So location, let's print this and let's see what it is. So you'll see that you are getting this hello here. Okay, so whatever the hello which was passed from here, that hello is available here. Now you can see that if I go to user 1, then it is null. Why? Because this thing is not passing any state, and that's why this is state is equal to hello. I'll come back to other things also, but I'm just showing state part right now. Okay, now if I go back to user 2, then you can see that again I have got this hello. More interestingly, you'll see that even if I refresh, then also that hello thing is there. Okay, now it will only come via navigation. So let's say I am here and then I go there by just typing this URL, so user /2. Okay, then you will see that there is this state is still null even if I have gone to user 2. Okay, but it is not there. But if I go through to it via navigation, okay, because this state I have added in the link tag. Okay, so if I land here via navigation, then you will see that I have got state is equal to whatever I have passed it. And again, if I keep on refreshing, then also that data is not lost, that data is here. But as soon as I navigate somewhere else and then then that data will be lost. Lost in a sense that, okay, so let me show you. So see, obviously right now if I press enter with typing in the browser, then it is lost because I have gone to one user one or some other route and then I came back. But if I am on 2, then after that, even if I keep on refreshing, then also this hello is there. Even if I keep on like typing 2, then also this thing is there. But if I go somewhere else and then come back, then the data is lost. So as you can understand, it is straightforward that the data is passed through navigation via link tag, and as soon as you have not navigated somewhere else, that data is preserved there. Okay, now this data can be anything. So it can be like some object like foo bar, something like this, and whatever you pass, that thing will be available here. Okay, so now you can see that my data now will be foo bar, and then whatever the way in which you want to use, that is like your wish. So let's say I want to print it here that I want to print location dot state dot dot foo. Okay, okay, and then you can see the, and then there is one important, so you can see that this bar is being printed, but you have to be careful because let's say I navigate to foo1, then this application crashes. Why? Because location dot state in that case is null, and then I'm doing null dot foo, so I have to use this operator. Then even if it is null, then it will not throw error because that will give us undefined. Okay, so in that case undefined rendering will be nothing, so that is fine. As soon as I am getting something, then it is being printing. If it is not, there is nothing, then it is not being printing in square brackets. Okay, that is fine. Let's see the other things which were being printed there. Okay, the other things where you can see that the other things were this hash. So hash thing is this thing. So let's say I have something like question mark, let's say id is equal to 123, sorry, id is equal to 123. Okay, and let's say anything, so something like this, then you will see that this part is in search. Okay, but if I have something like, let's say hash I don't know, my fragment, we have learned this, right? This in the same page, if you have to navigate, let's say from top to bottom or some other fragment, then that, so you can see that that part, that hash part is coming in frag, that, but that starts with hash. Okay, and if you write something in query params, then whatever the query params, let's say key is equal to value, whatever this thing, that thing is going to come in my search. That's query params is coming in search, that hash thing, that is fine. Key is default, yeah, so generally key will be a random thing. Okay, so so you can see that it will be like some random thing. Generally we will not use it, we will use this only for caching or something. It is somewhat in advanced use case it is being used. And path is straightforward. Path will be, you can understand that whatever is after root of the domain, whatever there is starting with slash, everything will be there in there. And state we just now discussed. That whatever the things, any sort of data which we are passing via link, that can be available here. Okay, now what is the purpose of this? You can do something like that. Okay, I don't know, like let's say some additional link is there where you are passing, let's say message, let's say this is some URL where which does not exist. So let's say I don't know, URL like say 200 user 200, let's say this does not exist, or let's say some random URL, let's say not found or something. Okay, and this does not exist, then you can give, let's say something like message is equal to page not found. Okay, or something like 404 error, anything you can pass. And then whatever the component which is handling this, so in this case we will see that definitely this not found component is handling this, right? So the same thing which we did here, right? Now we can do it here. Okay, so now we don't need it here. Okay, the same thing we can use it here. Okay, and then we can just import this. For now we can remove it from here, and then again the same thing. So let's say here here the thing is we gave the thing in state dot, I believe a message msg, right? And it should let's protect it from being null, and this is how it is, right? So you can see, and let's have it some other name. So in header, let's name it some not found page. Some not found page. I know that already know. I'm just giving an example that if you go to this thing, then you will get this 404 error, right? But this 404 error is, this data is coming from where? This data is coming from the state part, right? Again, this can be dynamic. Let's say using some programmatical way, you can identify what is the message to be shown. But I'm just showing you that this sort of use cases can be easily achieved using this sort of use location and state. Okay, now let's get back to something different. So let's remove it for now. We don't need this. Okay, so now we are interested in that. We already saw this link element, isn't it? But there is another variant of this link element called Nav Link. Okay, and that Nav Link is in fact, if you simply replace link with Nav Link, okay, then it will be almost same. So let's say this is link you are importing, right? Apart from link, you can have Nav Link also, and if you simply copy paste, and instead of link, if you use Nav Link, then it will work, you can see, exactly the same way. Okay, you can see that exactly the same way it is working. But what is the difference is that Nav Link is having somewhat more functionality than link. So all the things which you can do using link, all those things, they are all there. So you can see that 2 is there, this replace will be also there, state whatever you need, that will be also there. So all the things which are there in link, everything will be there here also. But apart from that, it has a few more things in a particular way. Okay, so firstly let's try to understand that what is the extra thing. First extra thing is style, the way in which style is handled. Okay, so you can definitely have something like style is equal to, and then let's say color red. Okay, so this is like normal. This will work in any JSX component, right? So it will work here also. But this is not much interesting because I am just hard coding it to be red, right? The more interesting part comes where this thing can be a function, but that cannot be everywhere. In normal components, it can be just normal JSX style attributes, or only as a object, JSON object, right? But in this case, it can be a particular function also, and let me show you how it works. So what happens is that you can actually pass a function, okay, and then that function can return any object. So it can return an object like this. Okay, but what is the difference? The difference is that this first argument, this argument of this function is some data which has it has something like is active. Okay, so obviously this data is active. So what I can do is that I can directly destructure that. Okay, which means that whatever the this function, whoever will internally the React will call this function, that is fine, but to a particular React router will call this, and it will already have. Now this is active means whenever this link is active, which means that I am on this particular route, then this will be this is active will be true, and otherwise this is active will be false, which means that now I can use customized way of handling this. So is active, if this is true, then I'll have this object returned. Otherwise, I will just return an empty object, which means that my new style, color red, which I am passing, this style will be applied only when is active is true. This link is true. Otherwise, it is I will not apply. And now you can see the behavior that when I am on. Okay, so I'll show you. Okay, so yeah, so there is something called end property, which I'll come back to soon, but let me firstly show you that when I am here, then it is being applied here, but when I am on some, let's say, random page, then it should not be applied. Okay, so why this home is always active, I will come back to it in a bit, but before that, let me show you this thing in a better way using user 1. Let's say that would be better. Okay, so in user 1, let's show you. So this thing, okay, so there is some error. Yeah, so this link, obviously this thing will not work on a link, so everywhere it has to be nav link. I'm just replacing that for now. So you can see that this thing is working fine now. Now if I go to user 1, then you can see this is active, then it is active. Otherwise, if I am somewhere else, then this thing is not active. Okay, now let's try to do the same thing across all the 3 components. Okay, now rather than copy pasting, what we can do is that we can simply take this internal thing. What is this? This is essentially a function, right? This is like active style function. Let's say I can name that let's say active style function. Okay, and then I can have this thing, and then I can use it. Okay, and then you can see that I can definitely reuse it at multiple places, something like this. So you can see that now user 1, user 2, whichever is active, that is red. Now the problem which was happening with home, let's try to simulate that here. So you see what is happening, that let's add it here also, and then we'll see that when I'm at home, then only home is active. When I'm at user 1, then you can see that home and user 1 both are active. When I'm at user 2, then home and user 2 are both are active. So what is happening is that this thing is active, works like this, that even if any descendant routes match, then also the previous like if some prefixed part is matching, then also that part also by default it says that it is active. In order to fix that, what we have to do is that we have to add something called just give me 1 second. We have to add something called end at the end of everything. Okay, so here if I add end, okay, then I'm saying that if there is an exact match, then only just do is active, otherwise don't do is active, don't enable is active on that. And now we will see that user 1, user 2, and when home is properly matching with only slash thing, right, then only it is matching, otherwise it is not matching. So that prefix matching is not being done, it is now exact matching. And generally the intention is that only to do exact matching. So generally whenever you are using this is active thing, then everywhere you should use this end thing. Okay, so that is about style prop. Okay, now a similar prop is class name prop. Okay, the only difference is that instead of object, you will pass a class name. So it's like normal. In style prop, what happens, that you pass a object. Here in class name you pass a string which is going to be a class name. Similarly here in this case, apart from that having a normal thing, which like normal JSX supports class name is equal to string, that will support, but apart from that here also class name is equal to that thing will also be supported. Okay, so here class name is equal to normal, obviously normal strings will be supported, but apart from that this thing is also supported. There is a function, and from that you can return some class name based on based on something like is active, let's say is active is there, and then if let's say if is active, then you just give me a moment. If is active, then you have some class name, otherwise you don't have that class name, and this class name can be anything, like anything, ASDF, any class name is there. Okay, so this sort of thing you can do. Okay, so let's try doing that. So what we can do is that we can simply take this and make this our function. Okay, and we can make this our function, and let's use that everywhere. Okay, and instead of style, now it is everything is class name, where everything, this thing is a function which behaves in a similar manner. It has this thing, and now this thing. Now this thing has to be a class name, valid class name. So when is active is true, then I have to apply this class name. Now this can come from here also. So let's say in header dot here. Okay, so here you can have like active link or something. Okay, and this is a class name, and you had, let's say, color, I don't know, like purple or red only, let's say. Okay, so this thing is there, but then you have to use this in the form of CSS modules, which means that when you are using this, then it cannot be a normal string. It has to be, because it will be like randomly generated some hash and something will be there, right? So you have to use styles dot active link, right? And now you'll see that the same behavior will work like this also. Okay, however, if you want, you could have created a global CSS also. In that case, CSS module is not needed. So for example, let's say active link is there, and then somewhere globally, let's say here you have just have this thing, let's say color red. Okay, and now what happens that since this is a global, then there is not CSS modules, and that's why simply this thing will work. I just have a string named active link. So whenever this thing is active, then I'll apply this active link class, and this active link class is defined in the index.css. Okay, anywhere you could have defined in app.css also, any file which is like imported globally. In fact, here also, if you are importing a file which is not a module file, which is like normal style file, something .css, then there also you could define it, right? However, if it is a CSS module, then you have to properly have the prefix like styles dot or something like that. Okay, and now inside header.module CSS, this thing is no more needed. Okay, and then you can see that this thing will still work in exactly the same fashion. Okay, and then you could add additional styles also, whatever you need. Now this thing is fine, but to tell you the truth, if you simply want a bit of simple styling when the thing is active, then actually you don't need all these things at all. Okay, let me show you a simpler way. You don't need all these things at all. What you can do is that you can delete this everything. Okay, and then I'll tell you a simple trick. What happens is that whenever nav link is there, then automatically whenever any link which is active, so like right now, let's say user 1 is active, right? Then you inspect and you see then class is equal to active. Automatically they apply this class is equal to active. I have not added here class name is equal to active or something, right? But automatically they have applied it. So this is like behavior of nav link. This is not a behavior of normal. If it is a link rather than nav link, then you'll see that this class is equal to active is not applied, which means that all I need to do is that I need to have a class called active in anywhere static CSS, and that will work out of the box, which means that simply if I have something like dot active here, then it will straight away work. So you can see that I'm not doing anything, automatically it works, right? So for simple use cases where all you need is a bit of small bit of styling for CS for active links, then you don't need to go here and there. You can simply and then anything you can. So let's say text decoration, underline. Okay, so whenever link is active, then it should be underlined. Okay, so color I have changed, and then underline behavior also have changed. So whatever you need, this sort of small things can be readily achieved using this active thing. Okay. Okay, so now we have learned about this Nav Link thing. There is one more thing which is interesting in Nav Link, is that rather than simply having a functional way in style in class name, actually there is a functional way of doing here also. Which means that you can do something like this, that let's say earlier I was writing just home, right? But you could have an advanced way of something like this, that there is a function here, and again this will be exactly like that. So here also there will be something called is active, and then you can utilize this is active in any way. So let's say is active, if it is active, then what I want is that I want to, like, say have caps, otherwise I'll have like in small. Okay, so in this way you'll see that when I go here, then it becomes caps, but when I'm not there, then the text is so you can see that the class part, this part is just doing styling. You know that using CSS also you can do that uppercase thing, but anyways, I'm just giving you a simple scenario where right now it is like normal text, but you can understand that since this is like proper JSX thing, then here you can have a proper component, which means that you can properly have a separate icon or something, icon component you can render, that whenever it is active, then some other type of thing is there. The point is that any type of component you can switch back and forth just based on whether it is active or not. Style, text, component, behavior, anything, that kind of thing you can do using but all this comes with the power of Nav Link. It's simple link, then all these functionalities are not there. Okay, so that is fine. Now let me tell you a different thing, that how to navigate or like route from various places, which means that route means redirect from various places. So let's say I'm right now I'm at not found page. So not found, this page is there. Okay, and you know that whenever let's say some not found page is there, then I'll be here. But what if I don't want to be here? As soon as I come here, then I want to redirect the user back to home. This is my requirement. Okay, or let's say even if I'm here and then after that somebody printed something which is like not found, then I should go back to home. That is my requirement. Okay, now let's see how we can achieve that. What we can do is that there are two types of ways in which we can redirect users from a page. Okay, the first way is not that common, but let me firstly tell you that there is a component called navigate. Okay, so from React Router DOM we can import a component called navigate. Okay, this component you can actually render here directly, which means that rather than page not found, I'll simply do this navigation. Okay, and then so this is like normal component, like any JSX component. You create an element and render that element. Similarly, you create an element out of this navigate component, and you do just one thing. You say that where do you want to navigate. So let's say I want to navigate to home page, so 2 is equal to slash. If you write like this, then it will say that whenever this component will be rendered, as soon as it is rendered, it is redirected to slash, which means home page. Okay, which means that whenever any page which is not found, then this will be rendered, so it will be navigated. So now you can see that what will happen, that as long as I'm on a valid page, then it will work fine. But as soon as I go somewhere which is not valid, then I enter, and you can see that quickly it redirects back to home. For a fraction of a second I see that page, a blink of a second, and then I redirect it back to home page. Okay, so that is one way. Second way is doing something like there is a hook for this, which is called use navigate. Okay, and then using this use navigate, you can do the same thing programmatically. So let's say I don't do this, I just have a p tag only. Okay, and I'm writing page not found like previously. Okay, page not found, but now I have a use effect hook. Okay, and in this use effect hook, what happens is that inside this use effect hook, only on mount, as soon as the component mounts, what I do is that, okay, so first of all, you cannot use navigate inside this, so let me write it outside. This we learned in the rules of hooks, right? So you have to take the navigate, take the navigate is equal to use navigate. Okay, and then this is a function actually. Okay, and this function you can call from anywhere. Okay, so what you can do is that you can say that I want to go to slash. I want to go to slash. There are some other options also, which you can see that like other things like replace, state. You can understand that normal whatever the link properties have, that sort of options are here also available. And I believe the warning are saying that this function you are using, right? So you should use that as a dependency. So that is fine. We can use that. But this is the basic idea that I have used a hook, it gives me a function. That function I will call it with so in the navigate component, like two was used. Similarly here, that two is actually here, that where you want to go. I want to go to root. Okay, and here you can go give any URL for that matter. Okay, and now you'll see that as soon as you are on valid routes, it's fine, but as soon as you land on some gibberish, then you quickly redirect. And now this redirect is happening because of this navigate function which we got from use navigate. But now this is programmatic, right? Which means that now I can do much more interesting things, which means that rather than navigating it directly, I can navigate it after, let's say, 1.5 second or 1 second. Okay, so I can have a, let's say, something like set timeout here, and I can say that, you know what, I want to navigate it, but I don't want to navigate immediately. I want to navigate after 1.5 seconds. Okay, then this will work like this. Okay, so now if I land on some gibberish, then for 1.5 second page not found is visible, and then it redirects back to wherever I said, which is I said home page. Okay, so this is like programmatic navigation, and as I said earlier also, this thing is completely same as, so all the options etc, if you want you can provide it, that I have already said. Okay, now one more thing is there. Just if somewhere on internet you see a component called redirect. Okay, so I said you navigate component, right? But somewhere so this navigate component is actually version 6 addition. Okay, earlier somewhere in Stack Overflow or somewhere you can see that you will see this component called redirect. Okay, so redirect. So this was actually earlier version. Right now you can understand that whenever you see this redirect component, you can see that this is old code. You simply have to use now navigate, and it will work almost the same way. Okay, apart from that, somewhere you will see one more thing, like actually whenever we are using link components, right? Then whenever we are using link components, then in nav link component, I told you one thing, that it can be I can only use class name and style. Okay, but in some of the earlier versions code, you will see that there was a property called active class name or something. Active class name, actually right now there is nothing called active class name. This was old. Right now only class name, and if you need the active class name, then actually this whatever the value is there, that becomes as I already told you, that becomes a function, and in that function you can destructure the is active one. Okay, so that thing is fine. Now, while we are speaking of navigate, let me tell you one more thing, that navigate function, apart from accepting a string, it also accepts a number which acts as a like shift in the navigation stack, which means that if you have positive numbers, then it will like go forward, and if it is negative, then it will go backward, which means that if I have something like -1, it is as good as go back. Okay, go back by one step. Okay, but let me show you that if you do, and for simulating this, let me show something like this, that let's say there's some page which is like not found. So some not found page is there, and what happens is that, let's say this is some gibberish URL which does not exist. Now if you, so let's say so I'm at home, I go to user 1, I go to user 2, and if I click on not found, then what should happen is that it should navigate back and it should go back to user 2, but you can see that it goes back to user 1, because actually this thing is running twice because of this strict mode thing which we already know, right? So you will see that if I disable this strict mode, then I am at user 1, user 2, and I am doing not found, then it goes back to user 2. Okay, so this is not the way. You should never disable strict mode, rather you should properly handle it. So if this is not working properly, it means it is an somehow React way of saying that you could have done this somewhat differently. Okay, so let's do something like this, that rather than this, let's have a fragment and let's keep this inside a fragment, also have a button, and that button can say something like go back. Okay, and on click of that button, what I will do is that I will do something like navigate -1. Okay, and there's no more user fact, and now the situation is something like this, that user 1, user 2. Now if I click on not found, then automatic reduction is not happening, but when I click on go back, then it goes to from whatever was the last page. If I'm at home, and from home I directly go to not found page, I go back, then I go back at home. Apart from that, if instead of -1, if I do -2, then it will go 2 steps backward, which means that if I'm at home, I go at user 1, user 2, and now I not found, then I go back, then it will be not 1 step back, it will be 2 step back, so it will be coming back at user 1. So this sort of small things you can do. Actually there was a in earlier versions there was something called I think history.goback or something, if you want to go simulate the behavior of this back button. So that in React.ro version 6 is simulated by this thing, navigate -1. Okay, so that is fine. Let's understand one final thing. Earlier we discussed that we have some sort of search params also we can have. Okay, so let's say we have something called foo is equal to bar. Okay, now this how to capture this. One of the ways which we actually saw, where what we could do is simply we can use something called use location. Okay, so let's go back to that use location for some time, and we'll see that I will get a location object. So const location is equal to use location, and this location object will have that sort of information from where I can see that, yeah, this thing is there, right? But then now you have to parse this manually. This search, in dot search you have this thing, right? And then in search you have to remove the question mark, and then rest of the things you can parse, right? There is a better way of that, which is called use search params. Okay, And then what happens is that you can get it directly. So use search params. If you get it, then what happens is that it returns you two things. Let me firstly tell you the first one. It will give you search params, okay, and search params. And like use state, it takes some initial value, but then you can pass any random thing also, okay. So first of all, you search params you have to do, and then you have to do get, and there is something called get all also. So let's try to do get all, and you will see. So you get this error. This means that actually get all does not mean that it gives you all search params. Rather, you still have to give the key, which means foo. But instead of just a single value, now it gives you an array. What does that mean? It means that, okay, firstly see only get. So only you do get, then you get yeah, what is the value? Foo value is bar. That's fine. If foo value is something else, let's say 1 2 3, then it will give you 1 2 3. That is all it is. But get all means actually there can be a situation where isn't it, let's say foo is equal to 1 2 3, and let's say id is equal to 99, and again foo is there. So let's say foo is equal to bar, okay. So in this case you will see that the first one is only given, okay, first one 1 2 3 is given. So in that case you can do something called get all, and in that case it will give you all the values whichever are for which the keys are foo. So 1 2 3 and bar, all you're getting, okay. But generally one parameter key only has one values generally, okay. So this will be sufficient for us. Now this shows that use search params, and then the first so you can see that the destructuring we have done, okay. So actually we have done use search params, whatever the value, dot search params dot get foo. Actually this much whole thing we have done to get the value of foo, okay. That is fine. Now this search params is important because not only it can get you the values. So let's say foo is equal to bar, that is fine. Not only it can get you the values, this bar, rather it can also set the values, okay. So right now let's say this foo, this thing, let's see, you're printing it somewhere. So let's say normally here you're printing it like this, okay. So this bar you're printing, right? But you can also set these values. So let's say that I have a use effect, okay, which says that, you know what, after let's say 2 seconds I'll change the as soon as the component is mounted, after 2 seconds I will change the value of this parameter foo to something else. So let's say after 1.5 seconds I'm changing. So that thing is coming in the second argument. Like state, you have state and set state. Similarly in use search params, you have search params and then set search params. And then again, like in use state, you can give any names which you want. But the main thing to remember is the first one is the data, second one is the setter. And this is again also a function like set state, okay. Now this thing, you can say that, you know what, I want to set, and then you can see that this warning it is giving that set search params should be there. So you can add it here, so that is fine. And finally in set search params you can pass an object something like foo, and then the value which you want, the new value which you want. So let's say 1 2 3, and now if you save it, then you will see that yeah, initially let's say it was anything, let's say bar, and then after 1.5 second it becomes 1 2 3, and you can see that the value which you are getting it automatically changes, and the URL also changes. It's important to know that the URL also changes. Whatever the value was earlier there, the URL also automatically changes. So if you wanted to change programmatically whatever is the params, then this is the way, right? Other than that, if you simply want to consume whatever is there, then this set thing is not needed. You just can get the search params and the search params dot get, and then you will get the value, okay. So I believe that should be more than enough to get started with React Router. So this video and a couple of videos before this, so all combining this all these three videos should be a very good introduction to React Router. So yeah, that should be the end of React Router for this course. In some advanced course we might touch a bit more things, but this should be sufficient. From the next video we'll start a new topic. So that's all. Thank you.